Hey guys, welcome back to more r/entitledparents Reddit stories. In today's Ripestories video, imagine a parent so dangerously entitled she let her kids steal a stranger's prescription pills just to stop a tantrum. When I snatched them away, she lost her mind and attacked me. However, she had no idea how this one mistake would cost her everything. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, Karen's Brat steals my blood pressure pills. His mom claims I should let her kid enjoy the candy. Posted on r/entitledparents. So for context, I work as the center director for a private tutoring center. We cater to a wide variety of students, providing everything from basic homework help to advanced test preparation. Because of the area we are located in, we deal with a lot of very demanding parents. Most of them are perfectly fine and just want the best for their children. However, a small percentage of them are incredibly entitled and believe that the rules simply don't apply to them or their offspring. So I have a severe genetic condition that causes extremely high blood pressure. It is something I've dealt with for most of my adult life. To manage this condition, I have to take a very specific dosage of blood pressure medication twice a day. These pills are absolutely crucial for my health. If I miss a dose, I start feeling dizzy, my chest gets tight, and I risk having a serious medical emergency. The medication itself is quite strong as well. It is designed to lower the blood pressure of a full-grown adult who is experiencing severe hypertension. If a healthy person were to take these pills, their blood pressure might drop to dangerously low levels, I imagine. If a child were to take them, the results could probably be fatal. The pills are small, round, and have a bright red coating, and they honestly look a lot like small candies, if you ask me. Because I need to take them in the middle of the day, I always keep my prescription bottle in my personal backpack, which I keep zipped up and tucked under my desk in my private office. The incident I'm gonna tell you about happened on a completely normal weekday afternoon. We were currently in our busy season, signing up new students for the upcoming academic term, and I had an intake interview scheduled with a new mother and her son. The mother, who I will call Karen, had already been causing problems before she even stepped foot into my office. My receptionist had warned me that Karen was being incredibly rude in the waiting area. She had complained about the parking, complained about the temperature in the lobby, and complained that she had to wait 5 minutes for her scheduled appointment while I finished up with another client. Her son was about 7 or 8 years old. While Karen was busy complaining to the receptionist, the kid was running rampant in our waiting room. He was knocking magazines off the tables, kicking the trash cans, and generally being a nuisance. Karen completely ignored his behavior, though she didn't correct him once. When I finally came out to greet them, I put on my best customer service smile and invited them back to my office. My office is a decent size. I got a large wooden desk, a comfortable office chair, and 2 guest chairs sitting opposite my desk. In the corner of the room there's a small play area with some wooden blocks and coloring books, and we keep this area stocked specifically for younger siblings who have to tag along during these long intake meetings. I sat down behind my desk and asked Karen to take a seat. The kid immediately ignored the chairs and started wandering around the room, touching everything on my bookshelves. I politely asked Karen if she would like her son to sit in the play area and color while we went over the paperwork forms. She waved her hand dismissively and said that he was fine exploring. I did not want to start an argument right away, so I let it go and focused on the intake forms. We spent the next 20 minutes going over the tutoring schedule, the curriculum, and the pricing structure. Karen argued with me about almost every single point. She wanted a discount because she felt our prices were too high. She wanted us to guarantee that her son would get perfect grades, and she wanted to dictate which specific tutors her son would work with. I calmly explained our policies, repeating that we do not offer discounts and that we cannot guarantee specific grades, only that we will provide the best possible academic support. So, while Karen was busy arguing with me about the cancellation policy, I lost track of where her son was in the room. I was so focused on maintaining my professional composure and answering her endless demands that I didn't even notice that the kid had wandered behind my desk. The first warning sign was the distinct sound of a zipper opening. I stopped mid-sentence and spun around in my chair. The kid was crouched on the floor right next to my legs. He had pulled my personal backpack out from under my desk and unzipped the main compartment. My heart dropped into my stomach. Before I could even process what was happening here, the kid reached into the bag and pulled out the prescription bottle containing my blood pressure medication. I usually make sure the childproof cap is clicked tightly shut, but I must have been in a rush that morning because the cap was loose. The kid easily twisted the cap off and dumped a handful of the bright red pills into his palm. Panic seized me. I jumped out of my chair so fast that it rolled backwards and slammed into the wall. "Hey, put that down right now," I said loudly, and I reached down and grabbed the kid's wrist, prying his fingers open and snatching the pills out of his hand. I then grabbed the bottle from his other hand and quickly dumped the loose pills back inside, snapping the cap shut securely. The kid immediately started screaming at the top of his lungs. He threw himself onto the floor and started kicking his legs, throwing a massive tantrum. Karen leaped out of her chair and rushed around the desk. She shoved me backwards and scooped her screaming kid into her arms. "What is wrong with you?" she yelled right in my face. "Why are you screaming at my son? You scared him half to death." I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. "Ma'am, your son was digging through my personal bag. He opened my prescription medication and he had a handful of my pills already." Karen looked at the orange bottle in my hand and then looked at her crying son. Her expression shifted from anger to complete entitlement. "Those look like candy," she said, pointing at the bottle. "He just wanted a treat. Why would you bring candy in a medicine bottle and hide it from him?" I stared at her, completely dumbfounded by her logic. "This is not candy, this is my prescription blood pressure medication. It is highly dangerous. If he had swallowed any of these, it could have killed him." Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please. You're just being dramatic. They are clearly little red candies. You just don't want to share. Look at him, he's crying. You need to let him enjoy the candy. Give him one right now to calm him down." I honestly thought she was joking. For a split second, I looked at her face waiting for the punchline, but she was entirely serious about this. She actually wanted me to give her kid my heavy-duty heart medication because he was throwing a tantrum. "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "I am not giving your kid my medication, that is just insane. And furthermore, he had no right to go through my personal belongings. You need to watch your kid." Karen's face turned bright red. She set her son down on his feet and stepped towards me, invading my personal space. "Don't tell me how to parent my kid," she hissed. "You're a selfish, horrible person. He's just a little boy. Give me the bottle." Before I could react, Karen lunged at me. She reached out and grabbed my right arm, digging her long fingernails into my skin. She tried to pry the prescription bottle out of my left hand. I pulled my arm back, but she held on tight, scratching me deeply in the process. The pain was sharp and immediate. "Let go of me," I shouted, pulling away with all my strength. I managed to break her grip, but her nails left 3 deep bleeding scratches down my forearm. The commotion in my office had grown loud enough to attract attention. The door to my office flew open and my boss walked in, followed closely by my coworker. "What on earth is going on in here?" my boss demanded, looking at the chaotic scene. Karen immediately spun around and pointed an accusing finger at me. "Your employee just assaulted my son and then attacked me. She stole my son's candy and refused to give it back. I demand that she be fired immediately." My boss looked at me. I was standing behind my desk holding my bleeding arm with the prescription bottle clutched tightly in my other hand. "She went through my personal bag," I explained, my voice shaking slightly from the adrenaline. "Her son tried to eat my blood pressure medication. When I took it away, she attacked me and tried to steal the bottle." My boss is a very experienced manager who has dealt with every type of crazy parent imaginable. She took one look at my bleeding arm and the prescription bottle and she immediately understood the situation. "I'm calling the police," my boss said calmly. She pulled her cell phone out of her pocket and started dialing. Karen's eyes went wide. "You don't need to call the police, just fire her and give my son his candy." "Ma'am, you need to step out into the hallway right now," my boss instructed, pointing towards the door. Karen realized that she was not gonna get her way. She grabbed her son's hand and tried to push past my boss. "We are leaving. I'm never bringing my business here again." "You're not going anywhere," my boss said, standing firmly in the doorway and blocking her exit. "You assaulted my employee. You're gonna wait right here until the authorities arrive." Karen started screaming again, threatening to sue the company, threatening to sue my boss, and threatening to have us all thrown into jail. My coworker quickly stepped out of the room and went to the front desk to ensure that the other clients in the waiting area were kept away from the commotion. The police arrived a bit later. 2 uniformed officers walked into the office. The moment they stepped through the door, Karen started crying hysterically, playing the victim. "Officers, thank goodness you are here," she sobbed, putting on a completely fake display of emotion. "This woman attacked me and my kid." She's hoarding candy and refused to share it with my son, and when I asked her nicely to calm him down, she scratched herself and then blamed it on me. The officers looked at Karen, then looked at me, and one of the officers asked Karen to step out into the hallway with him so he could get her statement while the other officer stayed in the office with me and my boss. I explained exactly what happened from start to finish. I showed the officer my backpack, the prescription bottle with my name clearly printed on the pharmacy label, and the deep scratches on my arm. The boss corroborated my story, stating that she walked in and saw Karen acting aggressively and confirmed that the bottle contained my necessary medication. The officer took notes and asked to see the pills. I opened the bottle and showed him the small red pills, and he shook his head in disbelief. "She really thought this was candy?" the officer asked. "She demanded that I give it to her son to calm him down," I replied, even after I told her it was blood pressure medication. The officer sighed and went out into the hallway to speak with his partner. Through the open door, I could hear Karen arguing with the first officer. She was still insisting that the pills were candy, that I was lying, and the officers decided to ask the kid what happened. They knelt down and spoke to him gently. They stood up and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault and battery as well as attempted theft of prescription medication," the officer said, pulling out his handcuffs. Karen completely lost her mind though. She started thrashing around, screaming that she was a mom and that they couldn't arrest her. She yelled that her husband was a very important person and that he would have their badges. The officers remained completely calm and professional though. They secured her hands behind her back, read her rights, and they allowed my coworker to take the kid into the break room, give him a juice box while they contacted the kid's father to come pick him up. Karen was escorted out of the building, placed into the back of the police cruiser, and once the chaos has settled, my boss insisted that I go to an urgent care clinic to get my arm checked out. The scratches were deep. I agreed and drove myself to the nearest clinic. The doctor cleaned the wounds thoroughly, applied some antibiotic ointment, and gave me a tetanus shot just to be safe. The next day I contacted a personal injury lawyer and I explained the entire situation to him over the phone. I agreed to move forward with the lawsuit which laid out the exact details of the prescription medication theft and the assault and completely shattered her false narrative. I want to keep the legal details short because I feel like they are boring. A week after the deposition, Karen's attorney reached out to my lawyer to discuss a settlement. Essentially, they wanted to resolve the civil lawsuit out of court to avoid the public spectacle and the guaranteed loss at trial. My lawyer and I sat down to discuss the terms, and I was not interested in dragging this out for years, but I also wanted to make sure Karen faced significant consequences for her actions. We demanded a substantial financial settlement that would cover all my medical bills, my legal fees, and a large sum for the emotional distress and physical pain she caused me. Karen's attorney tried to negotiate the financial amount down, claiming Karen didn't have access to that much liquid cash. My lawyer refused to budge though. He pointed out that Karen's husband was a high-earning executive and that they owned a very expensive home in a gated community. If they didn't agree to our terms, we would take the case to trial and seek even higher punitive damages. Faced with the overwhelming evidence and the disastrous deposition transcript, Karen and her husband finally caved. They agreed to pay the full settlement amount, and the fallout in her personal life was even more severe. Through the local community network, I heard that her husband was absolutely appalled by her behavior. The fact that she had actively tried to force their kid to ingest unknown prescription medication was the final straw for him. Apparently, he filed for divorce sometime later. As for me, I continued working at the tutoring center. My boss was incredibly supportive throughout the entire ordeal, and she implemented a new policy requiring all clients to leave their kids in the designated waiting area with a staff member if they could not behave during intake meetings. The entire experience was stressful, painful, and completely absurd. It is still hard for me to comprehend the level of entitlement and sheer stupidity required to demand that a stranger hand over their heart medication to a crying kid. Karen thought she could bully her way through life, ignoring the rules and demanding that the world cater to her every whim. Instead, though, she lost her money, her marriage, and her reputation. And yeah guys, in my opinion, nothing says good parenting like ignoring your entitled brat, destroying a waiting room, letting him rifle through someone else's private medical supplies, and then physically attacking that person when they won't let your kid consume potentially lethal medication. Really nailing that Mother of the Year application. I bet her Yelp review of your tutoring center OP was an absolute masterpiece. And now guys, some comments from Reddit. The first one said, "You potentially saved that kid's life. Blood pressure medication is no joke. If that kid swallowed even 2 of those pills, he could have gone into cardiac arrest or had his BP drop so low he would have brain damage. You did exactly what you needed to do in an absolute emergency situation. The fact that she assaulted you and then demanded you poison her own child is just absolutely deranged." And yeah guys, let me know in the comments, what would you have done in this crazy situation if you were OP? And another Reddit comment said, "The husband filing for divorce does not surprise me at all. Imagine finding out that your spouse got arrested because she tried to force-feed your 7-year-old son a stranger's heart medication and then assaulted a stranger and then still insisted in front of police officers that she was right. Like, that is not a one-time lapse in judgment, that is a fundamental character reveal." And unfortunately, not one of the good character reveals, let's just say it like that. And the next one is a petty revenge story, which is titled "The Bully and Her Book Report." So I just remember this today, since I took my mom to lunch for Mother's Day and she mentioned seeing my bully's mom at church. I had a bully, Jackie, who was a terrible person. Beyond mean girl, she was one of those popular kids who would go out of her way to be deliberately cruel, and she loved to pick on me. Catholic school, so we had the same classmates all 8 years, and she rode my bus, so there was no escaping her. She was also dumb and lazy, like most bullies, and I was an extremely shy and quiet child, almost completely silent, and I used to read a lot, so I was reading several levels above my grade. Our 6th grade teacher, Sister Louise, assigned us a monthly book report. You could either hand in a written report or do a little craft thing like a diorama and a short presentation. Papers were due on a Friday, but presentations were during our English period for the week preceding the Friday due date. A couple of months into the school year, at the beginning of the week, Jackie did her presentation of a book that was maybe a 4th grade reading level, but she had obviously never read the book or even the synopsis on the back cover, so her presentation was a story she made up based on the picture of the front cover. That same day, it seemed like she was especially horrible to me on the bus going home, and I was angry at that and her blatant cheating. She could not even bother to read the little kid's chapter book. I'd read that book a while ago, so I remembered the story, but I also checked it out from the public library and skimmed it to refresh my memory of certain points. I then did my very in-depth book report on that same book, pointing out minute details and making sure it was obviously not the plot that Jackie had presented. I got a 100% on that report and Jackie got a 25% because she had at least done the diorama and her mother had to have a meeting with Sister Louise. And Sister Louise then decided that we had to choose a book from the 6th grade reading list or get our book pre-approved. A lot of the kids were mad that they could not choose an easy book now because of Jackie. Jackie was ranting and raving on the bus that she got caught because someone else did a report on the same book, but I don't think she ever even suspected me because I was the kid who always had my nose buried in far more advanced books, and I think they assumed that I had done a report on one of those. Sister Louise knew exactly what I had done because I had to get my next book approved, and she gave me a very pointed look and a smirk when she said, "Yes, this seems to be a book that is more in line with your reading level." I would like to think that she was kind of proud that I fought back in the only way the quietest shy kid knew how. P.S. Sister Louise ran a tight ship, so there was no bullying in class. It all happened at sports practice, at Girl Scouts, on the bus or in the neighborhood. Also, it was 40 plus years ago when there wasn't a big zero tolerance for bullying movement. We were just supposed to deal with it. And the next one is from r/petty revenge and is titled "Don't Insult My Engagement Ring." So my fiance and I had been dating for 4.5 years, and in that time we have bought a house together, adopted doggies together, I put him through pharmacy school, med school, and lots of people don't realize that pharmacists get their doctorates or how competitive pharmacy can be, and we even fell more in love. He is an amazing man and I'm crazy about him. Well, imagine my excitement that after braving all of the ups and downs and watching life unfold as a team, he proposed to me. I was overjoyed and through tears of happiness I said yes. And of course, our doggies were involved too. It is a larger, slightly blush pink amethyst stone with a halo of topaz around it set in rose gold. I loved it and it was perfect. The next day I was attending a baby shower for my best friend in my hometown. I trekked my way there, and even though I tried to downplay the engagement because I wanted it to be about her, she made a mini announcement because I knew people who were there. Most people did a little congrats type thing, which was nice of course, except for her cousin. This girl, let's call her Amy, is super religious. Actually, everyone from my hometown is super religious, but I appreciate their faith. However, I did not like her judgment. She has voiced her opinions before about how people should not live together unless they are married and all that jazz, you know. So when she sauntered over, she took my hand in hers and scrutinized the ring. She more or less said that at least he was making an honest woman out of me and that he had taken too long to propose. Then she kind of scrunched her nose at my ring and asked what kind of stone it was with a little snobby half smile on her face. She also said that it was generic that he would ask me now that he's graduating because that is what everyone does. I don't know what came over me. I mean, I love my ring and I've never been this mean girl, but I've known Amy for a while and she's always been like this. She likes to say what terrible decisions other people have made and how she always puts Jesus first, so that is why her life has turned out so well. She says it is because she has followed his plan, which ultimately led to her getting married ridiculously young to a guy who really is not good for her at all and just leeches off of her. She had to put herself through school and work, while he would go on long stints out of the country to find himself and follow God's path, which, if you ask me, I think really meant just have fun with other women. She married him in the middle of a college year before one of the times he left, and I suspect to entice him to come back and have commitments here. Well, then I went for it. I said, oh wait, he waited until he knew he could provide for me. It is a pink diamond. Her whole face changed from smug to envious. She practically threw my hand down and mumbled about how happy she was for me. I looked up how big my petty lie had been later, only to find out that yes, pink diamonds are actually a thing and the teeny ones are like $10,000, but hey, she doesn't have to know how poor we are. We are rich with unconditional love and royalty, and that is why I'm happy to call him my future husband. And someone in the comments said, for a Christian girl, your mouth seems to be possessed by the devil. I said that to someone once, just thought it would be a nice insult for you to use if she tries it again. And yeah guys, thanks for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.